Okay. I think you can all see me now. Yo, how's everybody doing today? Just gonna check out the live chat, make sure you can all see and hear me. Sorry about the slight delay. My Yeti X microphone cable kind of died on me, so I had to kind of give it up. I'm using my laptop's Realtek microphone right now, so I apologize if it's not the best sound quality. I'm gonna have to go replace the cable, I guess, so I'll set that up for next week. But yeah, here we are, episode 19. Thanks for jumping on the live stream. We've got some good questions today. I kind of skimmed a couple of them. It looks like we've got some good ones. Today I'm taking questions from the broader community again. It's not going to just be members and super chats. So we've got some questions from the emails for those who sent in emails. And we're going to kind of do it old school like we did in the first kind of 10 episodes. So for anyone that's new here, what we usually do is that we kind of give everybody a chance to ask questions about our games in general. It tends to, be weighted towards Dark Deception, but we get a lot of Monsters and Mortals questions lately, and just anything that we're working on currently. So yeah, I'm gonna jump right into it since we're off to a little bit of a late start. But as always, don't worry, I'm gonna make up the time. And we're gonna kick it off with the member questions. Now, just to warn you guys, kind of from here on out, just to kind of streamline things a bit more and keep it simple. If anybody sends in super chats, I usually read all super chats, but if for some reason your super chat is basically just asking for a release date, I'm going to have to kind of like skip over those just for kind of obvious reasons, just to keep things moving. So if you send in a super chat and you just want to support us, that's awesome. We appreciate that. But if for some reason you want to have a question answered, just ask one that's a little bit more relevant to the games or anything else, because I can't answer release date questions, so that's just going to waste your super chat. But all right, member questions. Let's do it. Question number 1, kicking it off, is DD West. He says, "Hey Vince, when are the Chapter 4 maps coming, and which one is going to be first? Also, how long until Mama Bear and Trigger Teddies come to Monsters and Mortals?" So yeah, this is a Monsters and Mortals question. Chapter 4 maps have kind of been put on hold for the moment, just because we already updated the base game a few times. We figured it was time to focus on the DLCs. That's kind of how it goes. It's kind of a cycle. Like, we did a lot of work on the DLCs right away. We got 3 DLCs out in 5 months. People started complaining that we weren't updating the base game. So, okay, we have limited resources. We kind of shifted our focus back to the base game, and we pushed out all the Chapter 4 characters and the Crazy Carnival map and the Agatha Elementary Evil map. So we got 2 maps out and a bunch of characters. And now we've kind of switched it back to the DLCs because we have some really cool partners and some really awesome DLCs coming, as you've seen. Yandere Simulator, Poppy Playtime, Dark Pictures Anthology, House of Ashes. So that's where our focus is kind of right now. We do have the Chapter 4 maps kind of lined up and done. So like, we have Mascot Mayhem done. By done, I mean it's ready to be put into Unreal Engine, but we haven't done the Unreal Engine work yet. So it's kind of ready to go once we can turn our attention back to that. But we're kind of focused on getting the DLCs out right now, just to kind of fulfill that promise to our partners and to the players as well. And once we release those DLCs, other things will be involved with that other than just a straight up DLC release. So improvements to the base game will be coming along with those. But we kind of want to time it all together. Okay, question number 2 from Judanator. 2 things. Oh, this is a double-parter. All right, 1. Do you plan on adding AMD's FSR, Fidelity FX Super Resolution, to Dark Deception or Monsters and Mortals? Also, do you have any plans to nerf 8-Bit Ryan, Lucky, or Reaper Nurse anytime soon? Interesting. It's the first time I've had somebody ask me to nerf Reaper Nurse. I think nerfing 8-Bit Ryan and Lucky is always kind of a popular request just because they have that barrage style ultimate. That is something we are going to address. I know, I wouldn't say everyone's complained about it, but we have enough people that have complained about it that it's something we're going to balance in the next update. So as always, yes, we're going to get to that. As far as AMD's FSR, that's not something I've really looked into yet. I don't see why not. So, especially if it improves the visual clarity and quality of our games, that's definitely something we could support in the future as long as it's not too expensive to do so. By expensive, I mean not just money, but also time. So if it's something that AMD has made very easy to integrate, then we could definitely incorporate that. So question number 3 from Nifty SMB fan. Are there any plans to allow the player to skip the story sequence in Mascot Mayhem when in replay mode? I think it might get a little too repetitive when trying to get the S rank. I agree with that. So that's something that was kind of an oversight on our part, was that Mascot Mayhem has a lot of cutscenes, and they do go on for quite a bit of time. So yeah, I agree with that, and we will be putting that in to allow you to skip those cutscenes. So don't worry, the pain will end fairly soon. Question number 4, Xplex Mex. Did you ever consider adding explosions, fire, and rising lava, for example, during the self-destruct sequence in Mascot Mayhem, rather than having the flashing or the red flashing effect? Or would this have caused too many lag issues for people with lower specs, i.e. potato PCs? I just thought that it would have made the escape sequence feel a lot more climactic and atmospheric. So, no, I mean, I guess you could always have added something like that if that was your preference, to kind of give it a little bit more. I mean, we didn't want the lava to be, or the molten steel in the pit to be kind of like an enemy or a hazard during the escape. We wanted it to focus more on the joy kill fights and just getting to the destination in time. We figured those 2 obstacles are already enough. Like, we don't want to just like overload it and make it unfair. But also, yes, those are particle effects, and those are expensive, and a lot of people's PCs could not handle them. And on the lowest settings, it would look like garbage anyway. So maybe if it was an Unreal Engine 5 game and we could standardize PCs for everybody, then that would make it a lot easier to work with something like that. Question number 5 from Joy Lucky. Will the base game of Monsters and Mortals ever get a support monster as well as a ranged mortal to allow players who don't have or don't own any DLCs to try out every class in the game before making decisions on DLCs? Also, will the police trap in Yandere Simulator tase or arrest players? Okay, I'm going to break this up into parts. So, as far as a support monster and a ranged mortal, yes, we actually do have those coming, just with the remaining Chapter 4 characters and some of the Chapter 5 characters that we'll eventually add. So that will kind of check those boxes. Of course, you kind of have to wait for it a little bit, but yeah, it is coming to the base game. And, you know, those are free updates. So if you're not ready to jump in on DLCs and you just want to have it in the base game, you just have to wait a bit longer. Let me see. And as far as the police trap and the Yandere Simulator DLC, I can't spoil that yet. I'll just say they attack you. They're not a status effect enemy. They are an attacking enemy, so they will cause damage and inflict damage while they are in effect for trap time. Question number 6, Bendy17511. How's the progress on the Yandere Simulator DLC? Just right to the point. So, Yandere Simulator DLC, as I'm sure some of our more vocal fans have noticed, is not out yet. And it's still in development. And there's a reason for that. Just to give you kind of a little bit of insight into what's going on, is that we have some assets that are taking longer to get from outside sources than was expected, and that has kind of blocked the release of that DLC. So we're finally kind of almost through that. We should have everything in place soon. So what that's kind of doing is sliding all of our releases closer together. So whereas we would have had a little bit of a gap between Yandere Simulator and Poppy Playtime, now they're going to probably release pretty close together. If everything goes according to plan, which, you know, is always kind of a toss-up. But right now it's looking like we're going to drop a bunch of DLCs very close to one another, so you guys are going to be spoiled later on. I know right now maybe it's a little painful, like waiting an extra month or two for this, but you're going to be rewarded fairly soon when they all kind of pour out. It's going to be like kind of like it was before with 3-4 DLCs within a span of like 3 to 5 months. something like that. So just hang in there a little bit longer. Question number 7 from Emmy. Hey, Events, I hope you're doing great. I'm doing great. This is a question from a friend of mine. What exactly is coming out of Mama Bear's stomach? Mama Bear's stomach is basically, well, one, she kind of ejects the trigger teddies from her stomach. That's where they're kind of born from. But as far as the innards that are coming out, that was originally just supposed to be kind of a grotesque stuffing. You could construe it as being a little bit organic, not entirely like synthetic kind of materials. But as you've seen in Chapter 4, Mama Bear's bear suit is not actually her body. You never really get to see her real body. It's more like that suit's kind of her identity, is that she sees herself as such a mama bear that she literally wanted to take on that appearance. And her babies are her little baby bears, but they're not actually bears, so they wear a suit as well. So, they're a little bit of imposters, and so their suits are just kind of garments that they wear. Number 8, Redhead. Is there some type of enemy in the void outside of Bierce's ballroom? If not, have you ever considered adding an enemy to it? Well, how to say that without revealing anything? Well, the void around Bierce's ballroom is there. If you followed along with the Dark Deception story so far, and I hope this isn't a spoiler for anyone that hasn't played all of the chapters, is that Bierce has sealed herself within a pocket dimension as a protection from having her soul taken by Malik and imprisoned in the hell that they're in. So she may be safe, but she's also imprisoned. So they can't get in, but she can't get out. So that void is just kind of the nothingness in that realm that she's created for herself. So technically there's nothing in that void because it's a safe space. Now, will it stay safe forever? That remains to be seen in Chapter 5. So you may get your wish, but you won't know until later. Question number 9 from Rye Guy. Are there any plans to do polls on social media to gauge character balancing feedback from the community? For example, making a poll based on how balanced characters like Lucky are to get a better sense of their place in the meta. Well, I think this is kind of a more diplomatic way to say, are you going to nerf Lucky? And I admire his restraint not to throw Ryan in there. But yes, I know, well, we've gotten a lot of opinions from kind of our core player group, and those guys know best because, those players know best because they are always the ones playing. They put in the most hours, so they have a lot of expertise and insight onto which characters are not balanced as well as they should be, we'll put it that way. So the barrage type ultimates are an issue that we need to do better on, and we need to fix it so they're not so unfair when you get caught in them. We have a couple ideas for that. We may test it out, or we're going to test it internally first, and we may kind of see what the fan base thinks of it. I don't want to say it right now because that will create expectations, and if we try it out internally and it's awful, I don't want to be like, it's something that failed. It's just something we're going to try out that could or couldn't work to fix that issue. Or basically issue on all attack type ultimates. So I think we get enough feedback already that a poll's unnecessary. But I think a poll for the community for other things that we could do with Monsters Mortals makes sense. Maybe like a new feature or base game improvements, something where I'd like the community to kind of give us their insight on what they prefer when we have multiple options. That makes more sense than like a balancing, because I know people will just come in with all their alt accounts and spam vote for whatever their particular preference is. Question number 10 from Artemy. What can we expect in 2022 in terms of any Dark Deception related content? Oh, actually, we got a lot of stuff for Dark Deception this year. Obviously, Chapter 5 is the big one. There's a lot of stuff that we still need to improve with Chapter 4. As many of you know, bug fixes, updating localization. So we still have those on our to-do list for 2022. We also have a big well, I have a big announcement coming that I'm not allowed to say yet, but it should make all of you very happy. Whether you own PC or consoles or mobile, I think this will make everybody happy. But I'm not allowed to say it yet, so take of that what you will. But we have a lot of plans for 2022 with Dark Deception, and it's finally going to be kind of... I think after this, if everything goes according to plan, then it'll finally reach its full potential and be accessible to everybody. But some really cool stuff. I'm like bursting at the seams right now, stopping myself from saying anything. So, sorry for keeping that vague. I really want to like just spill my guts and say everything, but I can't. So, forgive me for the moment. Alright, that's the end of our member questions. So I'm going to jump over to Super Chats now. And we do have some, so I'm going to go through those. And after that, I'll hit the email questions from the broader community. And we'll circle back to Super Chats after it, and that'll be it. So we're going to keep it moving. All right. Got to make up for the late start. First, quit. Oh, wait. Sorry, those are not Super Chats. Oh, there we go. All right, first Super Chat is from Joshua, 78600. And he threw in $10. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. And he says, what type of boss for Evil Nun stage for Monsters and Mortal games? Oh, for the Evil Nun DLC. That one, I mean, we haven't really discussed that yet because Evil Nun's kind of like farther back in the release queue. We're more focused on the immediate releases of Yandere Simulator, Poppy Playtime, and House of Ashes. That's kind of like the release queue for kind of the next 3 to 4 months. Again, that is an idealized release timeline. It could be 5 months. You know, a lot of things are subject to change because a lot of stuff is in flux just because of the, the state of the world. Stuff's always kind of being delayed due to outside circumstances. So, yeah, Evil Nun and like Evil Nun, the Coma, and some of those other DLCs that were announced earlier will come a little bit later after those. So we're not giving those our full attention right now, and we don't have like a boss planned for that yet. We have some ideas, but obviously that's something we have to kind of discuss internally more. Okay, next one is from Joel. And he threw in £10. Thank you, Joel. You don't have to answer this, but what percentage would you give for each DLCs of being done for Monsters and Mortals? I can't give a percentage, because it would be wrong anyway. But Yandere Simulator is very close to done, and Poppy Playtime is progressing pretty well as well. I'd say it's still like maybe another month or two, month and a half away. So I think they're going to come out pretty close together, just based on the progress we have so far. And then House of Ashes is one that we're kind of working on at the same time. I think we've got most of the characters done. The map still has some work to do. We've kind of built a really cool map out of the House of Ashes game, and you know how we kind of take parts of it and sew it together into our own kind of maze layout style map. So we're kind of in that phase right now where we're working on that map and getting a really good feel for it. And then we'll kind of put things together on Unreal, and at that point it'll be ready for release. But yeah, Yandere Simulator is going to come first. Deceptex threw in £5. Thank you, Deceptex. Will Ghost Tammy Hauser, the one from Mascot Mayhem Flash Hack, be a playable character in Monsters and Mortals? We don't have any plans, or I don't have any plans yet, to include Tammy in Monsters and Mortals. I think maybe after Chapter 5, once she's kind of played out her entire role in Dark Deception, then I will kind of consider adding her in as a character that's playable. But it makes sense. I mean, she's part of Dark Deception. She does have a role in Chapter 5. A much larger role than she had in Chapter 4. So, yeah, I mean, at some point she probably will be a playable character if it makes sense, if she's got some cool abilities that we can kind of incorporate, which I think she does. So, yeah, not a bad question at all. Unicat Ingest threw in $5. Thank you, Unicat. She says from a Buddhist retreat with almost no internet. May not stay the whole time, but hello. Well, I don't know where your Buddhist retreat is, but thanks for giving us a shout and saying hello. I'm glad the internet was stable enough to put in that super chat and send that message. Kelvin1228 threw in 50 Hong Kong. Thank you, Kelvin. And he says, will the mannequin be called Zombie Mannequin? No. we have a name for it, but I'm not going to share that yet. Joshua threw in another $5. Thank you, Joshua. Will there be 2 bosses for Monsters and Mortals, just like in Evil Carnival stage? Oh, you think he means Crazy Carnival? 2 bosses for which stage? I assume maybe you're referring to the Evil Nun stage or the Evil Nun DLC. It's just going to have 1 boss. Every map in Monsters and Mortals only has 1 boss, though there may be multiple clones of them, like there's 2 Pyramid Heads running around Silent Hill or Silent Sacrifice, and there's multiple spiders for Crazy Carnival. So we can have like multiple clones of one enemy, but it's only going to be 1 enemy. Vizian Raymond threw in 5. Thank you, Vizian. So I saw the Poppy Playtime DLC wishlist is doing pretty good. Are you thinking of releasing that one first before Yandere DLC? No, because we have a commitment to Yandere DLC first. We have to be fair to our partners and, treat them all with respect. So when we say we're going to release Yandere Simulator first, we are going to stick to that. Even if, for some reason, Poppy Playtime's kind of the hot thing right now. We're not going to jump them over our previous partners just because they're selling better. Even though it is getting a lot of wish lists. I was actually kind of blown away by how many wish lists we're getting for that DLC. When that releases, it will probably be our most successful DLC, just going off the wish list count right now. So we're really excited for it. It's cool. I can't wait to see what they do with Chapter 2. It's a shame we're not putting that into the Monsters and Mortals DLC, but I mean, if this one does really good and Mob Games likes the partnership, then we could always release maybe like a Chapter 2 Poppy Playtime DLC, or one that incorporates all the future chapters, like an additional Poppy Playtime DLC. But that's up to them. This may be a one-time thing. Sorry, I cannot read Korean characters. I can read some Chinese characters, but not Korean, so I can't say your name. But you donated 5,000 won. Thank you very much. There are still many bugs remaining in the game. These bugs even interfere in getting S ranks. When will it be fixed? Well, I don't know which bugs you're referring to specifically. We do actually have fixes for a lot of the existing bugs. We just have not pushed them out yet because they're going out as part of a larger update. The Nurse A pose bug that some people get, I know they feel like everyone gets it, but it's actually a small percentage of people getting the Nurse A pose bug. But we fixed that, and it will be going out soon. So these fixes are already done. We just haven't pushed them out yet. So bear with us. They are coming soon this year. I can't give you a date when, but we are fixing things. So apologies to anyone that has to kind of suffer through these bugs at the moment. Rooney Nico threw in £5. Thank you, Rooney. When you port Dark Deception to consoles, will you have to downgrade graphics and frame rate for PS5, PS4, Xbox, and Switch? I'd say that's probably more likely for Nintendo Switch. Just given the power of the hardware, it's probably more on par with PSVR as far as the power of the hardware in that system. For PS5, no. PS4 and Xbox One, maybe a little bit, but not too much. For the most part, I don't really think there's going to be much of a visual loss when we do the ports. Alex Smallwood threw in 7 Canadian. Thank you, Alex. For Dark Deception Enhanced, at what point did you decide on monsters' soul types as explained in the e-notes? We've actually had... Well, I've written down a lot of the kind of backstory of the monsters as I went. I just never really put it in the game previously because it felt more like an arcade game at first, and we weren't focusing so much on the lore. So when Dark Deception started, it was supposed to be kind of like an arcade-style game that was just kind of like a play-and-forget short experience. And like I said, it was originally intended for mobile. So as the game kind of grew and became more popular, I had a reason to put the lore back into the game. And the e-notes kind of gave me a chance to put the lore and the backstories into the actual gameplay. Whereas before I was planning to do kind of a model viewer museum where you could kind of find the lore in there and it would just be kind of something you could read through. But I felt like that wasn't as fun as encountering it in the actual game and the story and the gameplay. So yeah, that's why some of it went out with the e-notes. I'm kind of like squeezing it in here and there wherever I can find a place that makes sense to include it. And at the same time, kind of revealing it at a pace that makes sense. I don't just want to do like a big lore dump all at once. That looks a bit rushed, so kind of want to put it into the story at a natural pace, if that makes sense. But thank you. Shark Fan 2 threw in £5. Thank you, Shark Fan. And he says, because trigger teddies kill mortals by exploding, why are there no signs of damage or destruction in the cabin or in the caves? Well, I guess the question you could ask is, are they really caves, and is that really a cabin? Remember, nothing in this world is what I would say is really real. I mean, it takes any form that the inhabitants desire. So, of course, they could probably, repair any damage. It's kind of like it's up to them what everything looks like. If that kind of makes sense. Autumn Azur threw in 2. Thank you, Autumn. And said, do mannequins move on all fours when they pursue? I've actually gotten that question a few times. And I can't really reveal how the mannequins move yet. Just because I'm not ready to reveal like the mannequin's AI. And I know some people will probably start animating that stuff like right away. But just kind of hold on. It'll be revealed soon enough. I can't promise like before the trailer, but at some point pretty soon. So just hang in there a bit longer. Calvin threw in another Hong Kong 50. Thank you again, Calvin. Said, can we use the boss on King of the Monster mode? No. So we're not going to be... You'll never get to play as the boss in Monsters and Mortals, unfortunately. That's partly due to just the design of the game, but also due to license contracts. Some characters have to be non-playable just by nature of the license agreement. So that's just kind of how it works for some of the properties we're including. But yeah, those are, like what I mentioned earlier, we have 2 new modes coming. King of the Monsters is one of them. And it is very cool. We're going to do a video about it for both modes that kind of fully explain them before they go out. I'm not going to give a timeline on that, but of course, as with everything, it's coming pretty soon. It's not going to be too much longer. We're actually, knee-deep working on that right now. And Deceptex threw in another £2. Thank you, Deceptex. And can Beers escape her prison? No. Beers cannot escape her prison, not without the ring pieces. She needs Malek's power to do so, to complete her original ritual. So that's why she's putting Doug to work, having him run around and put himself at risk to get the ring pieces rather than risk her own safety and put herself in danger. That's just how Bierce rolls. Whoops. Oh, YouTube did the jump. Hold on 1 second. Gotta find my place again. Okay, I'm back. Unicat Ingest threw in another 2. Thank you, Unicat, for your multiple contributions. She says, hey, Vince, show Agatha, please. And PyroShark119 says hi. Well, hello to PyroShark119, and as far as Agatha, that's a good point. Let me grab her. So we've actually got a couple new guests here today on the plushie wall. Of course, here's Agatha. She's coming up on, I believe, the 14th or 16th. We're going to start doing a giveaway on the 11th. So that's coming up pretty soon. She looks really cool. They did a great job on her. I love just all the detail they put into her and just her proportions. I mean, yeah, it's like very marketable version of Agatha. She's a super marketable plushie. But this is probably one of my favorite ones. I mean, right up there with Murder Monkey, Ducky, and I'm trying to think if I like Lucky or Hangry better. I guess I'll still side with Lucky. But yeah, it's definitely one of my top 5 Dark Deception plushies now. And oh, the other one we have here that's coming a bit later, not yet, is Penny. So we got Penny the chicken. She's kind of funny because of just her shape. She sits on a shelf really well. And this, of course, is her frenzy form. You know, she's got her little dangling eye. So these are prototypes. The final product will probably look better. So some of them, they don't have the right sizing. Not all their details are perfected. So, you know, just take these with a grain of salt. This is not as the best that they're going to look. But this one already looks really good. I like her a lot, and she fits well with Lucky and Hangry if you've already gotten the other two. So, the Joy gang is complete. Right. Find my place again. So there you go, Unicat. I hope that was what you wanted to see. Deceptex threw in £2. Thank you, Deceptex. I feel that's like your third contribution. Thank you. Will only one Dark Deception ending be based on our ranking? Yes, that is accurate. So only one ending will be based on your ranking, and that will be the true ending, the S rank ending. So you can definitely count on that. That's 100% fact. There will be multiple endings, but there will be only one ending that is based on your ranking. So that S rank only comes into play once. And if you get all S rank, basically that gives you additional levels to play, and the true ending, which is the canon ending. The other endings, we'll call them the bad endings. I guess they are the bad endings. Those are not canon. Those are just basically, if you didn't put in the time, that's what you get. But they're still fun. You're going to enjoy them. I put a lot of time to making these endings. They're very entertaining. So I think you'll like them. So definitely play and see them all. Or just go on, if you don't have the time for that, just go on YouTube. Somebody will probably make a video with all of them and check them out. But yeah, once Chapter 5's out and 100% just finished, the game's done, it'll be fun to see all of those. Okay, Addy threw in $5. Thank you, Addy. Hi, Vince. I don't know if you remember me from the other Q&A. My question is, in the future, would you ever consider doing a crossover with Dead by Daylight? Yeah. I think I'm always game for crossovers with as many horror or popular horror franchises as possible, especially in other, a multiplayer horror game like Dead by Daylight, the one that kind of started it all. I think we'd have to be pretty big for them to consider that partnership. These partnerships always have to be kind of a two-way street. So if one partner is contributing more of a following and more fans than the other one is, then that's not an equal relationship. So it'd be good if they did it out of the goodness of their heart, just to make, our lineup complete and make it really cool just to see that crossover. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and these guys are businessmen. They think with a spreadsheet and dollars. So if we give them a reason to do that, I'm sure they will. They'd probably think it's cool. But probably that's a little farther down the road. We got to grow the game a bit, improve it, get all the DLCs out, get everything 100%. This is still a game that's being built. It's still in progress. And our ultimate vision for the game is like 2-3 years down the road. It's something we're going to support for a while regardless. So I look forward to that day. We'll see in a couple years or a year or two where it's at. And if we're in a good spot to try to pursue the Dead by Daylight partnership. Right now we've got some really cool ones with Piggy and Poppy Playtime. We're going to focus on those because those are already pretty exciting. Fernando Millo threw in 5. Thank you, Fernando. You've recognized that there are core group players with high hours. Why not have them helping out and balancing? Just in general, we don't involve fans in the game design. That's a legal issue and also a team issue. So we're always happy to listen to our fans, kind of take their opinions into consideration when we're doing changes, but we don't want fans dictating design to us. That's just not how the game industry works, and that's not how we work. We trust our own insights on things, but we were always influenced by the opinion of our core fans. So we will listen to the core fans, but they're not going to become like our bosses and kind of lay out the balancing for us, if that makes sense. That's not like a slight of those core fans. That's just kind of keeping things in perspective. So they are important. Their opinions are important, but they're not going to become the designers of the game, if that makes sense. We have to kind of take into account the opinions of everyone, not just our core group. Even somebody that's put in 5 hours of gameplay, their opinion still matters. And I've seen some of our core players tell them that their opinion doesn't matter because they don't have 1,000 hours of gameplay versus, their 5 hours. That's just not true. Everybody's opinion matters. Judinator threw in $5. Thank you, Judinator. Do you plan on doing... Sorry, I'm going to reread this. Do you plan on doing any final rebalancing to the Silent Hill DLC? Things like Pyramid Head and Silent Hill Nurse need some reworking. Well, we have two camps for Pyramid Head. We have people that love him, and we have people that think he's impossible and unfair. So it all depends on what camp you subscribe to. We wanted Pyramid Head to be overpowered. That was kind of the whole point of boss time, is we don't want soft, easy bosses that are inconsequential. We want them to come out and be unfair and change the course of the gameplay. Silent Hill Nurse, I'm not exactly sure. I've had a couple fans tell me they want her to be rebalanced. I'm not exactly sure what about her needs to be rebalanced. Or maybe there was something broken with her, like her status effect wasn't working. I'll probably have to kind of dig into some of the fan feedback again to get kind of refresh my memory on that. But yeah, I mean, if there's something wrong with her, we can rebalance that. That's pretty easy. But as far as like nerfing Pyramid Head, no, that's not going to happen. And then as far as the Silent Hill DLC itself, it has left Steam. That was just the nature of our agreement. It was a timed exclusive, or not an exclusive, a timed partnership. That was why a small team like ours was able to get Silent Hill, which is a very in-demand, highly demanded license. So even some huge companies were getting rejected for that, and we were able to get it, but the catch was that it was for a short time period. Now, the cool thing is that we do have Silent Hill on all platforms. So even though it's over for Steam, it is going to come to Epic Game Store. It is going to come to Switch, all the consoles, and mobile once we release the ports of Monsters and Mortals to those platforms. So if you missed buying Silent Hill DLC on Steam while it was still there, you still have plenty of chances to buy it on Epic Game Store when it comes to that. And remember, it's cross-platform, so you'll still be able to play with Steam players and the console players. So it really, I guess, in that sense, doesn't matter which PC platform you buy it on, because they will still work the same. So I hope that reassures some people who missed out on Silent Hill DLC on Steam. Fish threw in 5. Thank you, Fish. Will you guys add new characters to the Poppy Playtime DLC as they make new chapters? Also, will you buff the Silent Hill Nurse's Ultimate? Okay, so it's the Ultimate that is the issue. I think that's what I remember now. It was something about it wasn't functioning as intended. It may have been the fear status effect wasn't working right. So yeah, I'll look into that. We'll add it to our list, and we'll take care of that. As far as the Poppy Playtime DLC, we originally signed that DLC as a map-only DLC, simply because at that time, Mob Games wasn't really sure if they wanted to license out Poppy Playtime. And this was way before they even took off and became like the bigger thing that they are now. So even back then, they weren't sure if they wanted to license it. Making it a map-only DLC kind of helped smoothen things over and seal the deal. And then after that, I was able to kind of push them and negotiate for one character. But it's not really something we're going to be able to push them and get more characters. That's entirely in their court. If they want to do it, great. We can always do an additional Poppy Playtime DLC. I have no doubt there will be plenty of support for that. But for the moment, we're really happy with what we already have. I mean, of course, we couldn't get in the backpack guy, but we did get Poppy. I mean, granted, he's the boss; he's not playable, but we do have Kissy Missy, and she's basically the same as Poppy, or as Huggy Wuggy. Sorry, I called him Poppy. It's 2:30 in the morning. My brain's not functioning. Huggy Wuggy. She just has kind of like eyelashes in a different color, but model-wise, they're almost the same. So we're thinking about doing a skin that makes Kissy Missy look like Huggy Wuggy, so you'll still feel like maybe you're playing as him. That's kind of like maybe a workaround that we can put in. And then as far as their future characters, they're not out yet. Chapter 2's not out. The game hasn't fully developed yet. So that's something we'll push down the road. If they want to continue the partnership with us and expand on it, then we can definitely get all the Poppy Playtime characters in. We'll see. That's kind of like a we'll see thing. Joshua threw in another 5. Thank you, Joshua, for your multiple contributions. Will the Reaper Nurse plush return? No. Unfortunately, all of our makeshift plushies are limited time drops. That means they're there for 30 days for the campaign, and after that, never again. At least that particular version of the plush. Now, that particular version of the Reaper Nurse plush will never return. However, we may do a new version of the Reaper Nurse plush, so like an alternate skin, something from Monsters and Mortals, or something from Dark Deception, a different look or a different skin color, something like that. So like we have the Dread Ducky, which was one of our top sellers. And then we have the upcoming Flamingo Ducky, which is the reskinned version of the Dread Ducky, and that's from Monsters and Mortals. For those of you who play, the Flamingo Dread Ducky. So that's like an example of the Dread Ducky's coming back, but not the same. It's going to be different, even though he'll look the same. It's like a different version of him. So in that sense, yes, all of these plushies will return, but they won't be the same. Addy threw in another 5. Would Malik fall for a D's Nuts joke? Well, I just did by reading it, but I'm doing you a favor because you're helping us out and supporting us. I need to know this critical information. I'd like to think Malik's a bit smarter than I am. He's a little bit more perceptive. So I think he would not fall for it. Deceptex threw in another £5. Thank you, Deceptex. And the message was retracted, so I'll take that as just a donation of support. And thank you again. That's like 4 or 5 donations from Deceptex. Leatherface threw in MX20. Thank you. That's just a donation. There's no message. So thank you again. Issa Vibe threw in 5. Also a donation, no message. But thank you for your support. Tabub45 threw in $2. Thank you, Tabub. And asks, if the chef could talk, would he talk like Mario? Probably I'd put some kind of generic stereotyped Italian voice in. And since I'm an Italian, I have no shame about that. I love them. I love stereotyped Italian voices. I don't find them offensive at all. So yeah, I think a Mario voice would be awesome. I could also be kind of like a Jersey Shore, Brooklyn, New York Italian type thing. Maybe that would be more fun. But yeah, no, you just get the monkey noises and screams for now. I think that works pretty well. Alex Smallwood threw in 7 Canadian. Thank you, Alex. Would you say making Chapter 5 in 2 parts has been a better decision than in 1 or 4? Also, will it be as long as Chapter 4? In many ways, I think Chapter 5 may be longer than Chapter 4. Just because of all the cutscenes and different endings and kind of branching path points. It kind of extends it a lot. And as far as releasing it in 2 parts, I think that was kind of the happy compromise. Doing it all in one would take too long, and doing it in 4 parts would just feel like too short. I think granted, maybe you would get a little bit faster, but it wouldn't be enough content to keep you happy, and you'd immediately want more. So I feel like 2 is kind of like the happy middle ground between those 3 options. Unicat Ingest threw in 5. Thank you, Unicat. That's 3 donations from you. Appreciate it. I guess your internet, it must be improving at your Buddhist retreat. She says, I had a dream where you and I got into a fight for some reason. Oh no. I think you probably won. In Monsters and Mortals, and you snatched the wig off my character. It was awful, bro. Please apologize now. Well, on behalf of my horrible dream self, I'm sorry for his actions. Obviously, in dreams there are no consequences, and he has no shame. Festive Mix 7 threw in 2. Thank you, Festive. When are the achievements coming for Monsters and Mortals? Ah, yes, the achievements for Monsters and Mortals. So, we updated with the Steam trading cards. I saw a lot of you are having fun with that. I'm trying to remember, I think it was Bendy has like 18 foil cards now. But yeah, we talked about achievements coming for Monsters and Mortals 2. Those are still coming. They're a little bit farther behind the trading cards, but they will be coming in the next couple months as well. We're still designing some of them, but that is something that is on our priority list, so don't worry, they are coming. Let's see, Autumn Azure threw in another 2. Thank you, Autumn, again. If you could put a Dark Deception boss in Death Battle, who? Well, of course I'd have to go with Joykill, but I think probably second to that would be Chef Monkey, just because I'd want to see that. So those 2. Issa Vide threw another 5. Thank you, Issa. Is the Dark Deception Netflix show official? If so, how close would you say it would come out? Or how soon would you say it would come out? No, that was an April Fool's joke. The Netflix intro. It was a joke in the fact of labeling it as a Netflix intro, which we changed afterwards. But and that's kind of why like some people thought like we ruined the joke in the description. That was more of a disclaimer, like Netflix, don't come after us type thing. So that was intentional. But yeah, we wanted to have some fun. Imagine what a Netflix style Dark Deception intro in the show would look like. We actually, that is for the game. That is going into the game pretty soon. We actually already have it in the game. We just haven't pushed that update yet because we're still doing some bug fixes and some other stuff. But that will be coming soon. And we are actually looking at upgrading Dark Deception to Unreal Engine 5. That's something we're kind of experimenting with right now and seeing if we can do it. And fortunately, it's breaking some of our plugins that we use, so we're going to have to rewrite some things. But ultimately, our goal is to upgrade Dark Deception to Unreal Engine 5, which will improve the visuals and the lighting a lot. But Dark Deception Netflix show is something that's always on our minds. And actually, we've been contacted and had some interest about that. Whether it becomes reality, who knows? I think they just kind of contact everybody. I know Bendy's had a Netflix show discussion. I'm sure FNAF has had plenty. We're still waiting on the FNAF movie. I wouldn't doubt Poppy Playtime would get some offers, so who knows? Anything can happen. I think everything gets a Netflix show at some point. Hopefully, it's more of whenever it happens, I hope it's a good show, not a terrible one. Let's focus on that instead. Deceptex threw in another £2. Also another donation. Thank you very much. I hope these aren't just like you're getting double charged by accident. But if not, I appreciate the support. Joshua threw in another 5. Thank you, Josh. That's multiple contributions from you. Will Rod and Ice Cream Man be in Monsters and Mortals since Rod is Evil Nun's son? That's entirely up to Kaplarians. We don't have a deal in place for Ice Cream. That is one of their franchises, so anything's possible, but we already have a pretty full queue for 2022. We need to finish all of our current partners. I'm always looking for new partners just to keep that queue full for the next year, 2023. But I can only put so much time into that, so I want to fulfill what we already have, and then we'll start looking at other franchises. There's so many. And they're all pretty cool and willing to work with us, so, I could announce names in new DLCs forever. I'd rather start launching some. Calvin threw in another Hong Kong 50. Thank you, Calvin, again. Does Tammy really hate Doug, or is it just an illusion made by Malik? Well, that one is definitely a you'll see for Chapter 5. So, but thank you for the support. Sorry I can't answer that now. But there's going to be a lot revealed about Tammy and Doug's relationship in Chapter 5. I know a lot of people were kind of bothered by the glimpse that you got in Chapter 4. Unfortunately, there are some darker memories coming for Doug and Elise and Tammy. You know, we've got to drag all the skeletons out of their family's closet. So just be prepared for that. Fish threw in another 5. Thank you, Fish. Will we finally get more speed mortals, support monsters, and or ranged characters in these upcoming DLCs? Oh yeah. These DLCs add a lot of characters. I think each one adds about, obviously with the exception of Poppy Playtime, House of Ashes adds 4 characters. So does Yandere Simulator. Yandere Simulator adds 3 mortals, 1 monster. House of Ashes is more balanced, 2 mortals, 2 monsters. Poppy Playtime adds a monster character. So, you know, there's a lot of different types coming. It's going to be a pretty full cast after those 3 release. And then, of course, right behind it, we have the Piggy DLC coming, which I know a lot of people are excited for. I think that may be... If there's any DLC that can beat Poppy Playtime, that's probably it, is Piggy. Let me see. Hyper Orange threw in 2. Thank you, Hyper Orange. Does Malik's door play a big part in Chapter 5? Yes. I can't say whether it plays a big part, but Malik's door does play a part in Chapter 5. Oh, YouTube, why do you keep jumping? 1 second. Gotta find my bookmark. Okay. Soar Voyage, 32 Gamers threw in $1 as a donation and retracted their message, so thank you for your donation. Vizian Raymond threw in another 10. How's Evil Nun the Broken Mask doing? Evil Nun the Broken Mask is still in development. We haven't shown much about it, just as we're focused on Monsters and Mortals in Chapter 5. But yeah, everything's just going in development. Once we're ready to show something, just like we did with the demo video earlier, we'll show it to you guys and see what you think. Fortunately, right now, since that's a collaboration, I can't just kind of release updates at my own whim. Those are kind of like pre-planned. So bear with us. Baphomet threw in 2. Thank you, Baphomet. Any updates on the book? Yeah, good question. So Dark Deception has a book series coming, written by Kelly Para, who's one of the authors on Fazbear Frights. She's done a few of their books, or a few of their stories, the novellas. And we already have 1 novella done, and we're almost done with the second one. So we're going to kick things off with 2 stories, or 2 novellas. And the book series itself is called Malik's Archives. And basically it revolves around Malik as he kind of goes through his backstory and talks about some of his experiences dealing with mortals and demons, and just kind of his history prior to Bierce. So everything that happens in Malik's Archives happened before the incident with Bierce. Okay, Autumn Azure. Oh, and then, sorry, just before I go on. As far as the book's release date, we're probably targeting Q2 or Q3. Obviously, you don't want to rush writers. I'm not going to rush Kelly. I'm kind of, we're co-writing the books together. She does probably about 80% of the book. I pitch in and do about 20%. So it's a co-writing, but she's doing the lion's share. So I want to let her kind of be comfortable writing the books at her own speed. You don't rush creativity. So I would say Q2, Q3, but I would expect Q3 to be safe. But they are coming out this year. Autumn Azure threw in another 5. Thank you, Autumn. If you were in Doug's situation once again, which levels would you survive? How would your relationship with Bierce be? I don't know. I always wondered if I could survive Dark Deception if it was real. I'm just not a very fast runner. Maybe a long time ago I could run faster, but I'm pretty sure I would die quickly and horribly. You know, I don't think they would do any favors for their creator. So you'd probably find my soul shards kind of scattered around in there, probably in the hotel. I wouldn't get past that. He's a lot better than I am. And as far as my relationship with beers, contentious. Just because I'm Italian, so we tend to voice our opinions too often, and she probably wouldn't be cool with that. So I'm sure we could make it work, but as I said, I would die off pretty fast, so I don't think that would be a very long relationship. Hyper Orange through in 5. Thank you, Hyper Orange. Will there ever be a remastered version of Dark Deception once Chapter 5 is finished? Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Down the road, as Dark Deception ages, you know, it's already been out for like a few years, 3 years now. Almost getting to 4. You know, technology advances. We got Unreal Engine 5 now. They're going to improve that dramatically, just like they improved Unreal Engine 4 over the years. And then Dark Deception's graphics will grow dated. So it makes sense to do a remastered version at some point and kind of update that. I don't know if I'd want to do just some kind of like rushed remaster. I would want it to have more than just better visuals. So we'll see. We'll have to do something special with that when we get to that point. Thankfully, I think that's still a few years away. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of like the cycle for all games now, is at some point they'll do a remaster. And also that helps bring in new fans that never got to experience the original, and they don't have to go back and play like a really old, visually outdated game. I appreciate that. There's a lot of games I was late to that I played remasters for. Like, I think one that I played recently came out 2018, 2019. It's called Judgment. It's part of the Yakuza series, and I got to play the remastered version. So it looks way better than it did on PS4, because they updated all the materials and the textures, and you know, that I appreciate that. Alex Smallwood threw in 3 Canadian. Thank you, Alex. Will the Chapter 5 levels have beer styries? Yeah. So every level that you S rank will have a beer styrie. Unicat Ninjas threw in another 2. Thank you again. Will there be plushies of Joy Joy Gang regular form? Yeah, there will be. It's just, we started off with the Frenzy mode just because that seemed to be more popular with our fan base. But yeah, we do intend to do a normal version of the Joy Joy Gang at some point. Hyper Orange threw in $2. Thank you, Hyper. And that's multiple contributions from you. It says, you ask, does the mall have anything ice related in it? No. There's nothing ice related in that. At least as far as real ice goes. Maybe there could be some winter decorations around the mall since it has that Christmas theme. But yeah, no real ice. Addie threw in another 2. Thank you, Addie, for your multiple contributions. Permission to beat the living crap out of beers. She's feisty. You can try it. I think she's going to give you a go for your money. You gotta hit the gym and work out. Hyper Orange threw in another 2. Was there going to be a forest zone in Barely Buried? Oh yeah. So I think a lot of people, based on the exterior shot, assumed at first that it was going to be kind of like an exterior zone where they'd go through the forest and kind of into the caves from there. That was always kind of an option in our design, was to include something like that. But I kind of felt when I was designing it that there was already a lot of walk through the woods type horror games. So many. I mean, there's like ever since, even going back before Slender Man. So that was definitely a trope I could kind of play on and kind of have some fun with. But I felt like I wanted to do something a little bit different with the start of Barely Buried and just go right into like a really weird bear cabin. And at the time that appealed to me a lot more, and still does. So I'm sorry to everybody that wanted kind of like a forest runaround outside. I didn't really focus on the exterior, even though that kind of plays prominently in the opening cutscene. It wasn't really part of the gameplay until the escape. So anyone who got their hopes up about the forest, I'm sorry. Maybe we'll have a forest level somewhere in Monsters and Mortals that can kind of scratch that itch for you, and all will be forgiven. Shark Fan 2 threw in another £5. Thank you, Shark Fan. After the ballroom cutscene, why does Malik take you to Barely Buried, the same place where the ring pieces were hidden? Well, like all villains, Malik is a bit overconfident that your end is near. So maybe he's a bit overconfident in Mama Bear and her abilities, because that is kind of his execution site where he disposes of troublesome guests. So it was never a problem before. He was probably fully confident that it wouldn't be a problem with Doug as well, even though Doug had been a problem up to that point. You'll see in Chapter 5 that Malik's not really taking any chances anymore. Chalk it up to, lessons learned. Maybe it's that he doubts Doug that much. Alex Smallwood threw in 14 Canadian. Thank you, Alex, again. Let's say a killer becomes a murder monkey. What decides who they serve? Does Malik have full rights to all murderers? Does an elite evil have better odds of getting souls than lower-ranked demons? There actually is a progression system there that Chapter 5 gives kind of a look at a bit more. Also in the Dark Deception books, you'll find out more about that. There is, without spoiling too much here, there is a system for which monsters wind up serving which demons, and how they become monsters. I think I haven't said too much. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm afraid I'm going to say something I shouldn't. But I hope that gives you a little bit. But thank you again. Hyper Orange threw another 2. Why were the Goliath Clown's hats removed? The Goliath Clown's hats were removed. I think that was just to make them visually different from the regular clowns, because we didn't want them to just look like pure reskins of the normal clown gremlins. For some reason that some people were bothered by that, just like they were bothered by the smaller eyes. Everybody has their preferences for everything. And I recognize that some people liked some of my previous designs better, but a lot of people like the new ones better. So we'll just chalk that up to each their own. I'm happy with the final design, so that's why it made it into the game. Aaron Sue threw in 31. I think that's Australian. I'm not sure. But thank you. Is Mama Bear and Trigger Teddy coming soon in Monsters and Mortals? And the door in the ballroom, and will the door in the ballroom open in Chapter 5? Mama Bear and Trigger Teddy are on hold for the reasons that I stated earlier. If you just jumped in, I said that we were basically devoting our resources to getting out the DLCs. We focused on DLCs in the beginning, got 3 of them out. Then people asked us to focus on the base game and update that, so we did. We put out 2 maps and all the Joy Joy Gang and the Reaper Nurses. And now we're kind of focusing on the DLCs again. So eventually we'll shift back to the base game. That'll include Mama Bear and Trigger Teddy. We have some things we have to fix with their models that are not working well in Monsters and Mortals. So that's why they've been kind of delayed a bit. Technical issues with their rigs. So we have some stuff to solve. But for the moment, they're kind of paused with the Chapter 4 maps like Mascot Mayhem, Barely Buried, and Torment Therapy. That'll probably be the next base game push. We'll be adding in Trigger Teddy, Mama Bear, and those 3 Chapter 4 maps. And your second part, will the door in the ballroom open in Chapter 5? I can't really reveal that, but I think most of you can kind of guess what role a door will play. I mean, how many things can a door do? So, yes, the Malik door has a role in Chapter 5. I can't specify exactly what, but you can expect something. Addie threw in another 5. Thank you, Addie. So if I jumped into the void around the ballroom, would I just be floating there eternally while occasionally shouting insults at beers? Good question. If you want to be the guinea pig for that, go for it. Go ahead and jump off the ballroom into the void and see what happens if we don't have collision blocks set up to block you from doing that. I know at one point we didn't have collision there, and you actually could jump into the void. I think you just kind of fell forever. That's usually how it works in games. When you go outside of the boundaries, you just kind of fall until you hit like the outer edge of the gameplay area, and maybe you'll be able to walk around on the bottom of the void. Tabub45 threw in another 2. Thank you, Tabub. Can you play a game called Andy's Apple Farm? I haven't played that one yet. I've heard about it. I'm not exactly sure what it's about, but it looks really cool just from what I've seen. But I haven't got to watch any videos on it on YouTube, and I haven't got to play it. So maybe that's one I can check out later on, since it seems like it's pretty popular with the YouTube community. Autumn Mazura threw in another 2. Thank you, Autumn. Which game are you most looking forward to posting? As far as like releasing the game, I'm definitely Chapter 5. I'm looking forward to releasing that the most, just because that's the completion of a very, very long journey for us and the team. So it'll be a very bittersweet moment when Chapter 5's done, because we put so much of our lives into that game. Like so much of our time and so much of our effort. And we just want to finish strong with it, put out a completed package that's fun to play, has a great ending, get rid of all those pesky remaining bugs, and just make it something that, put a bow on it and have a product that we're proud of, because we've spent many years on that. And thankfully we're getting some help to do that, so more coming soon. Let's see, Unicat Ingest threw in another 5. Thank you, Unicat. Unfortunately, I cannot decipher this. I'm going to read what I can. Bear with. You're just going to have to accept that, Unicat. The Nitro's Pig, I want a rib pizza rib. Ahwa, slow cook while I eat meat. I think, is that Nitrous? The Interest Pig. Hanger butter, move feet, pork hits beef. Oh, you're singing the song. Okay. Did I set it right? Nah, I think you got the lyrics a little off, but close enough. Close enough. Festive Mix 7 threw in 2. Thank you, Festive. Is US Creators DLC now just Corey Kenshin X, or Corey X Kenshin DLC? Yeah, right now the US Creators DLC is basically just Corey Kenshin. And probably we're going to keep it that way, just because there's not really too many other YouTubers that we want to add to the game that kind of support it, and we don't want to add too many YouTubers. So we wanted to get kind of the big ones that have always been kind of the pillars of support for our Monsters and Mortals community and Dark Deception. The ones who kind of always play it or always part of it, and who have made a big impact. So I think we already got like a good group there. We'll probably leave it at that and just focus on the other horror game DLC. But Corey Kenshin DLC is awesome. We're pretty much almost done with that. We just got to get his voice recordings, and I think that's something we could also kind of slide in somewhere in between, maybe like Poppy Playtime and Yandere Simulator. Maybe like in between those we could drop the US Creators DLC, because that's literally just a character, so that'll be like a pretty cheap pickup. Yeah, look for that pretty soon too. I almost forgot about that one. Hyper Orange threw in another 2. Thank you, Hyper Orange. What is the next plush after Agatha and Penny? That I don't know. We have a big list, but I don't know which one they're going to do next. So Makeship kind of does a lot of samples of a lot of characters, and we kind of get the prototype done, and then we basically decide the release schedule later, and it's always in flux. So I can't accurately tell you which plushie is going to come after Agatha and Penny. There's a long list there, but we've got like 13 other plushies that are in development and coming. So it may be almost a monthly thing where once a month a new plushie drops. So they're going to keep coming. You guys are doing an awesome job of supporting them, and I love seeing this massive collection grow to a ridiculous degree. I've got to get a third shelf soon to kind of fit them all on. I don't know if you've seen my photo of the plushies all on their shelves. I hope that eventually takes up my entire wall. That would just be too cool. Let me see. Fernando Miller threw in another $2. Thank you, Fernando. What are your thoughts on David Barron's 90 Vince cards? I saw that. Was it 90 now? I saw it on Twitter when it was 56, and I thought that was hilarious. So I saw that the Glowstick Vince card is just the basic card has the highest price on Steam at the moment, and I'm guessing that's artificially inflated due to his purchases, like he's actually influencing the market. So yeah, that gave me a laugh. So I have no problem with that. Autumn Azura threw in 5. Thank you, Autumn. Hey Vince, I'm making a fanfic story based on Dark Deception. Is that okay if I use your game as a base? For fanfics, yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, that's the whole point of fanfics, right? Do what you want. As long as it's free for the whole community, there's no problem with that legally. I think it's only a problem if somebody takes a story from somebody else, like a game, like a popular game, and does a fanfic and then tries to sell it. That's when it crosses those legal red lines. But as far as just doing your own story and sharing it online for free, yeah, there's no problem with that. As long as it doesn't have like weird, hateful stuff in it, then that would get shut down. But I don't think that's going to be an issue for you. Unicat Ingest threw in another 5. I didn't think my last super chat would go through. Sorry about that nonsense. Laughing my ass. Laughing. So, I take it that wasn't supposed to go through. I think your internet's doing fine. Don't worry about it. Oh, sorry. YouTube jumped ahead again. Okay, Kelvin threw in another 50 Hong Kong. Thank you, Kelvin. Malik equals evil Doug Hauser. Interesting theory. We shall see in Chapter 5. But thank you again for your multiple contributions. Addie threw in another 10. Thank you, Addie. I think that's like 4 or 5 for you now. Thank you. I feel so bad for Tammy. I relate to her so much because I've experienced a lot of things she's experienced. I've had an abusive father. I've self-harmed, and I've even tried to commit suicide. Well, I think those themes are, well, one, I'm sorry to hear that. I wouldn't wish an abusive father on anybody. But I think those are more common themes than people are willing to admit. And I think abuse is a wide spectrum. So it's not like always the cartoon violence that you see in those after-school special videos and, cautionary tale promos on YouTube and things like that, where, there's some, like, drunk guy hitting his kids with a wife beater on. It's not always like that. It can be many levels of abuse and self-harm and those kind of concepts. Maybe I don't really consider those, like, mature concepts anymore, because I think children deal with those concepts at a very early age. So in many ways, even myself, I've dealt with some of that coming from an Italian family. Again, not to knock on my Italian family, but, they do have some flaws. So I feel like everybody's dealt with some of that stuff to some degree. And hopefully it never gets you to the point where you're considering suicide. If you have any support there, definitely use it if it gets that bad. Never feel like you're alone. You're not. So yeah, Tammy for me is a way to kind of address a lot of that stuff and kind of show, a lot of people label Doug a monster, and in many ways he is, but I also feel like he's real. Like, I've run into many people like Doug. He's not some imaginary character that can never exist. So I feel like there's a lot of, and it's not like there's a lot of powerful people like that's only in the upper hierarchies of society. There's a lot of normal guys that struggle either voluntarily or involuntarily with that behavior. Maybe they weren't raised right, or they have a warped view on things, or they just can't control their anger. So I think it was a reflection on not just Tammy's life, but the father and the mother. And you'll see in Chapter 5 a lot more about Elise as well. You didn't really get a look at her at Chapter 4. You saw kind of one side of her. But Elise is part of that family as well, and you'll see more about her. Let's see. Well, Judinator, through in 5. Thank you, Judinator. Are any other YouTubers planned in the US pack? Maybe Fusion Z Gamer, or Vapor the Gamer, or Omar? No, we're just doing Corey Kenshin. I think all of those guys are deserving to be in the game, but like I said, we don't want to add too many YouTubers because this is Monsters and Mortals. We want to focus on the games. Horror games that have built the horror genre and contributed. We definitely want to add parts of the community. That was the whole point of the creators, was to kind of acknowledge the community and the channels and the fans that have made an impact. Because a lot of the YouTube creators, that's what they are. They're gamers. They're fans. First, they're just filming themselves and streaming, their passion. So that was our way to kind of include the community as well. We didn't really have to do that. We could have just stuck with the games, but it felt right because those guys are part of, the fabric of the horror community. Let's see. Deceptex threw in another £5. Thank you, Deceptex. Will there be more flashback cutscenes like in Chapter 4 and Chapter 5? Also, can you please buff Hangry's speed? Yeah, there's a lot of cutscenes in Chapter 5, so no problems there. I don't know if I would tell you that they are flashbacks. But maybe there'll be some of those in there. I don't want to reveal anything, but it's plausible that there could be some flashback cutscenes in Chapter 5. As far as buffing Hangry's speed, I assume you mean for... I don't know if you mean for Dark Deception or Monsters and Mortals. In Dark Deception, I mean, he's already all over the place. So I know if I buff his speed anymore, there's going to be a lot of people start complaining about that and say it's unfair. And if you're talking about Monsters and Mortals, he's a power type. That's kind of uniform for all of them. So I can't really alter it for him because that's a character class. They all have the same speed in there. Joshua threw in another 3. Thank you, Joshua. What type of weapon will Senpai have? Senpai doesn't have a weapon, so he basically is just bare-fisted. and you'll see he's not much of a fighter. He's more of a lover than a fighter. He's a pacifist. But he's got a pretty funny ultimate that you'll see once we get to this showcase video, which is still coming. UBF13 threw in 5. Thank you, BF. Hey, Vince, everyone has gotten the Reaper Nurse A-Bug pose in her first cutscene. Well, everyone that has gotten it has gotten it. But yeah, I actually encountered that bug on Steam Deck. So it's not hardware related. So that bug is really a bug. It's not related to having a potato PC. So it's not affecting everyone, though. There have been some PCs I played it on. It never appears, no matter how often we try to get it. So we're not exactly sure what causes that, but we've already fixed it. It doesn't appear. We've tested it on multiple devices, and it's gone. We just haven't pushed that out yet, so bear with us. It's coming. It'll be part of a larger patch. Festive Mix 7 threw in another 2. Says, you should grow Glowstick a bit. Have a good day. Well, if I had a money tree and I could shake it and have $1 million team budget, I would definitely grow it a bit. Right now, I'm happy with the people we have, and we have a very talented small team. We're going to kind of keep it that way. I'm not trying to become EA. Autumn Azura threw in 2. Thank you, Autumn. Can we expect more Mannequin OSTs soon? Actually, I think we got all the... Well, no, we didn't do the boss music yet. Yeah, I mean, we still have some tracks left from the mall level for Chapter 5. I believe we haven't done the boss music yet. Although I could be wrong. I don't remember putting that up. But I think we've done all the normal and frenzy tracks for the zones. I'll have to refresh my memory and look, but maybe it's only the boss track that's still coming. Okay. Fernando Miller threw in 5. Thank you, Fernando, again. Hey Vince, not really a question, but I am really close to level 300 in Monsters Immortals. And I will get that reward from you. Uh-oh, did I promise something? I don't remember. But level 300 is the cap, but we're going to raise that cap soon, so you'll be able to keep going further. But that's pretty impressive. Just getting to level 300 is pretty amazing. Alex Smallwood threw in 7 Canadian. Thank you, Alex, again. If my math's right, you would need to reach level 24 to earn enough skill points to max all powers. Could you get there by the last level? Actually, the cap... Let's see, what the existing cap for Dark Deception was supposed to be level 15. To have enough skill... Well, one, to unlock all powers, and then have enough skill points to power up most of the powers to max. So you're supposed to be able to... Or you're supposed to kind of make a decision on which powers you're going to max out. And not have enough skill points to max them all. Though there may be a bug in the game that actually allows you to level further and get more skill points than you're supposed to. That's something we're kind of working on. Autumn Azora threw in another 2. Thank you, Autumn. Will the mannequin level have lots of traps? Oh, yes. Well, I would say hazards more than traps. My Vision threw in €5. Thank you, My Vision. What about playing the fan game Pizza Time? I played Pizza Time. It was great. That's why it won our Game Jam. And we actually have plans for Pizza Time, as I've already told the creator. There is potential that Pizza Time will have a place in Chapter 5. And that's something we're working on currently. So we'll have a little bit more news on that. We have kind of a special area of the mall level that's going to have some cool Easter eggs and surprises, and the winner of our Game Jam will be included in that. Let's see. Addie threw in another 2. Thank you, Addie. She's going to blow up Malek's realm cutely. I would like to see what that looks like. Fernando Miller threw in another 5. Thank you again. With the current delays on content drops, are there any plans to make possible adjustments to the game to improve modding quality of life? Yeah, I think with Monsters and Mortals, the mod community is playing a larger and more important role, and that they kind of fill the gaps for us. So while we are working on these partner DLCs, and that's kind of consuming our time, we're trying to make those as good as we can, and then we have to kind of update the base game. Some fans are a bit more impatient than others, and they just want a constant content, like, monthly, which we're not always able to do. So that's where the mod content comes in. It's created by fans. It may be stuff that they want to see in the game, but we legally cannot put it in the game, or it's just not our design, but they want to, mod their own build and have it in there. I think that's great. I love the different mod communities for FNF and stuff like that, and what they've been able to do with that. I would love to see that happen with Monsters and Mortals. I think that's a discussion maybe we could have at some point with the modding community to see where it's possible for us to make the modding process easier. Now, since a lot of them are using licensed content that we don't own, we can't officially back that or endorse it. But we don't want to stop them from doing it either if that's something that they're doing for themselves and it's not going to affect other people's games. Just their own game. So, yeah, I mean, that's something we'll kind of improve over time. It's going to be a slow process. It's not going to be something that happens overnight, but we will definitely try to make that a little bit easier. Unicat Ninjas threw in another 5. Will Mascot Mayhem be buffed? Or some of the mascots, such as maybe Lucky's stun immune while speed boosting? I think for the most part, the response to Mascot Mayhem is pretty balanced. Definitely we have a group of people that think it's too easy, but we have an equal group that thinks it's too hard. I think that's pretty much the case for every level. And I kind of balance between the two groups. I can't cater exclusively to one group. I think that's where difficulty settings will hopefully solve that and make everybody happy. That's probably the only solution I have. So like when we add in a hard difficulty later, which is still coming for Chapter 5, that'll be something for those people who really want a challenge and aren't happy with the current difficulty, that they can really amp things up and make it more challenging. Hyper Orange threw in another 2. Are you okay with DD characters in FNAF fan games? Yeah, I mean, like I said with the modding, I have no problem. I've seen plenty of Dark Deception Bendy fan games and Dark Deception FNAF fan games. I think that's great. I mean, fans are kind of shared between all of these different communities. I think all of Dark Deception fans are also Bendy fans. They're also Poppy Playtime fans. FNAF. You know, it's ridiculous to hate on one or any of those communities when most of the fans are fans of all of the communities. So if they want to create a fan game for free and share it with those communities to kind of celebrate their love of these franchises, that's awesome. I mean, isn't that the whole point of being a fan of a game? The problem is if they try to sell it and make money off it, then it becomes a legal issue. But most fan games don't do that. They know where that line is. Let me see. Oh, come on, YouTube. Okay, I'm back. Autumn Azura threw in another 5. Thank you, Autumn. You're surrounded by 12 murder monkeys, and you have one banana and a DD monster of your choice to help you out. How do you handle the situation? Easy. I get Agatha and teleport myself out of there. Instant win. Aaron Sue threw in another, I think, what is that? Aussie Foot 15. Thank you. Vince, will you guys have a chance in the future to cooperate with FNAF? I really can't say. I mean, that's up to Scott Cawthon or whoever owns the FNAF license, which will probably always be Scott Cawthon, whether they want to do that. As far as I know, he's not too big on collaborations or licensing out the game to basically, well, crossovers. He's not big on crossovers. So I really can't say. UBF13 threw in another 2. Can you reveal the name of the mall level? That's a you'll see. Not yet. It's not time yet. SharkFan2 threw in another £5. Thank you, Shark, again. If Daniel Dabrowski joins Monsters Immortals in the future, do you think Chris Pinkston might join as well as some sort of Dark Deception sound audio crew pack? Maybe I'll make some horrible amalgamation of the two of them just to make it easier and only have one asset, less time. It'll be like a Chris Pinkston, Daniel Dombrowski hybrid creature. I'm sure they'll both love that. Yeah, at some point we'll get Daniel in. That would be interesting if it became like an audio crew type thing. They would both love that as well. Kitty Future threw in 10. Thank you, Kitty. Speaking of fanfics, I was making one too with the Reaper nurses though, because I love them so much. It's not what you think, I promise. I don't know if I believe that. I'll have to share once I'm done with part 1. Please do. I mean, I love to see people do Dark Deception fanfics. You know, basically that's what we're doing with our books right now, but it's canon because we're the creators, but otherwise it kind of feels like it. Yeah, as long as it's not one of the thirsty fanfics, which you swear it's not. So when you're done, yeah, share it with the community. I think most people will love that. Addy threw in another 5. Thank you, Addy. Why is Malik's posture so bad when he's running in Monsters Immortals? God dang. I don't know. Our man runs like a dork. What can I say? He's not too big on combat. Let me see. Rooney Nico threw in 2. Thank you, Rooney Nico. Or £2. Opinion on loot boxes and microtransactions. I think those... Well, one, I don't like loot boxes. At least not the ones that are for real money. And microtransactions, they're good for mobile. I think they make sense on mobile because the games are free. That's the only way they can make money. To keep their games or to stay in business and keep making games. On consoles and PC, I don't like to see those, and I'll never use them in our games. DLCs are not what I classify as microtransactions. It's more like buy a pack of skins, or buy a fancy hat for your character in Fortnite, something like that. Hyper Orange threw in another 2. Was Mama Bear always meant to be the boss of Barely Buried? Yes, she was. There was never a Papa Bear. I know some people wanted that, but it was always Mama Bear. She's a single mama. Addie threw in another 5. Thank you, Addie, again for your multiple contributions. I'm playing Dark Deception while watching this. Lol, Malik keeps killing me through the wall. He's a sore loser. Wait, it must be Phantom Malik, right? Yes, he is a bit of a sore loser. Fish threw in another 2. Thank you, Fish. Can you reveal the level 10 enemy location? No, I can't. That one's a big surprise, so I'm not even sure if I'll ever reveal that before the first part of Chapter 5 releases. I'll have to kind of dig through later and see what I can show to make it look exciting, but also not spoil everything. I'm not quite sure yet. Autumn Azura threw in another 5. If I were to make my own Dark Deception game world, would you look it over with me to avoid copyright? It's based differently than yours, don't worry. Avoid copyright. I don't know if you mean, like, make your own Dark Deception style game? Like your own original thing? Or do you mean, like, a fan game with your own worlds, but it's based in Dark Deception? If you make your own game that's like Dark Deception, but it's not Dark Deception, then you're not violating any copyright. If you're doing a game that's set in Dark Deception, but you want to do your own zones and your own maps, yeah, that's fine. That's a fan game, as long as you're not trying to sell it for money and it's free to the community. That's all good. Aaron Sue threw in another 8. Thank you, Aaron. Can you debuff? Debuff? Joy kill. You mean nerf him? I already had people telling me he's too easy. You think he's too hard? Well, try him on easy. See if that works. Definitely don't play him on the hard difficulty later then. He is going to be a pain. Addie threw in another 2. Thank you, Addie. If you had to fight Malik 1-on-1, would you win? Well, knowing what I know about Malik, I could fight him if he's the door. I'd just poke him in the eye. Or do something else. Yeah. In his other forms, I would just run away from him. You saw, he's pretty slow. I can outrun him pretty easily. I wouldn't even be worried about his phantom form. Now, Chapter 5, he would kill me. Fernando Miller, $5 again. Thank you, Fernando. Silent Hill's nurse's problem is not her ultimate, it is her range. That causes her problems and makes her struggle. When you say her range, because she has a knife, are you talking about her hitbox? So I'm interpreting that as hitbox issues, but other people are complaining that her fear status on her ultimate doesn't work. So I'm going to assume that both might be an issue, and we can look into that. Autumn Azure threw in 2. Funkin' Deception coming out soon. I don't know. I really don't know. I saw that a while ago, and it looked cool, but I've never heard if it came out. So if you know who created it, I think that was Tails and his team. If I remember right, then you can check up on them and ask them if they're still making it. I really don't know. Joshua threw in another 2. Thank you, Josh. Does Reaper Nurse have hair? Well, nobody knows what's under the bag, so it's probably, it's like Schrodinger's cat. There could be hair, or there could not be hair. Until you look, she has hair. Unicat Ninjas threw in 10. Thank you, Unicat. Again, last question. If Monkey has 3 bananas, how many centimeters of a rib does Hangry have to eat to determine the square root of the circumference of a triggered teddy before it blows up in 30 seconds? I'm not going to pretend to be smart enough to answer that, so you get to work on that break out the calculus and get me the answer to that one, and I'll read it off. I'm just going to check D, all of the above. Fleet does stuff for £5. Thank you, Fleet. Will we ever get proper Dark Deception figures? Also, Vince, can you please respond to my email as to why I was banned from GEVIP? Well, one, proper Dark Deception figures. Well, we have U2s coming. Those are... Well, we're going to reveal more about them later. I'm not allowed to say which ones yet. But we do have U2's Vinyls figures coming. As far as action figures, that's something we're going to address at some point, but we don't have any plans for it yet. We're just happy to kind of finally have U2's figures. As to your account status, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. So just kind of send it an email and we'll look into it. But generally, if you were banned, that's not something we do kind of willy-nilly or for no reason. You probably said something that crossed a line. Hopefully not. Maybe it was a mistake. But send me an email and we'll look into it. Addy threw in another 5. Thank you, Addy. Wait, you can poke Malik's eye in his door form? Let's go, man. We found his weakness. I take it you didn't watch the Corey Kenshin video. He had a very different suggestion for how to deal with the Malik door eye. Fish threw in 5. Thank you, Fish. Will there be a feature where you can choose to start a zone over when you lose all your lives? We already have that. It's just... or you mean like an individual zone. So start over zone 1 or zone 2. But I think, I mean, basically the way the level's set up right now, for most levels, there's a save point at the beginning of each zone. So if you keep using last checkpoint, it's always going to restart you at that point, but it's going to remember how many shards you collected. So I'm wondering, are you asking if you can restart the zone and also restart the shard count? I'm not sure why you will want that, but probably not. We're just going to stick with the current save system for Dark Deception, but I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question right. Fernando Miller threw in 20. Wow, man. Thanks for all your contributions today. Hey, Vince, do you want to collab with Swanky Box with Monsters and Mortals and Zardy's Maze? Even though they would love to do it, but Swanky Box is making a Zardy's Maze sequel. You could try contacting them on Twitter for the Corn Maze map DLC. Actually, I talk to Swanky Box pretty often, just for several things and just to say hi. He's a cool guy. I've kind of been watching Zardy's Maze. I think it has a lot of potential. I think I'd like to see what he does with the new sequel to Zardy's Maze. If that can offer some really cool options. And if it does really well, that's something we could definitely include in Monsters and Mortals. We've already kind of expressed interest to him, and he's expressed interest to us. But, you know, everything needs to be kind of readdressed at certain points to see if that feeling is still mutual. And if that's something that we can both fit into our schedules. So, yeah, it's on our radar. We'll put it that way at this point. Aaron Stu threw in another 8. Thank you, Aaron. Oh, is this a duplicate? It's the same thing. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, sorry. My bad, I read that wrong. He says, can you debuff Lucky in Monsters and Mortals? He is too OP. I assume you're talking about his ultimate, which a lot of people agree with you on. So yeah, we're going to take a look at his ultimate. I think the ones people complain about the most are the barrage-type ultimates, which are unblockable if you're within their range. So I can understand that. We'll get to it. We'll see what we can do with that to make it a little less overpowered if you get caught in it. At the same time, we don't want to nerf it and make it useless for the person using Lucky. It's a two-way street there. Judah Nader threw in 2. Thank you, Judah. Is Ayano a support monster? No, she's not. We'll kind of show that in the showcase. You can see what her type is. But she's not support. Let's see. Joshua threw in another 2. Does Tammy have a favorite cartoon character? That's not addressed in Dark Deception, but of course she would have one. I can create a favorite cartoon character for her. I just haven't done that yet. Let's see. Oh, YouTube did its little thing. Hold on. Okay, Baphomet threw in another 420. Thank you, Baphomet. Is Ayano voiced? Yeah, she's voiced again by Michaela Lalaz, the same voice actress that did the original, voiced Ayano and Yandere Simulator. We're using all the same voice actors for Yandere Simulator because we want to keep it familiar to fans of Yandere Simulator. So we've already got the recording. She did a great job. She's a great actor. And if you're a fan of Yandere Simulator and Ayano, you'll definitely recognize her voice. Let's see. Unicat Ninjas threw in another 5. Thank you, Unicat. She has the answer to the above question solved by Luki Boy 13 as North Korea because North Korea could blow up in 30 seconds. Have a joy day. Well, okay then. Autumn Azur threw in 5. Thank you, Autumn. If my game is completely different than yours but based on Dark Deception, can I still sell it out of curiosity? I'm new to this stuff. No, in that case, that would be in the fan game category. So you're free to do it. You can do whatever you want if it's based in Dark Deception, but you have to share it with the community for free for it to be legal. But I mean, that's a great way to test things out. If you're new to game development, that's a great way to grow your skills, build a fan base with an existing fan base, and also become a supporter of that community. So I think that's a great way to start, is like mods and fan games, because that's the fastest way to kind of build your own following and your own support group and get your feet wet. And you're going to make mistakes, so that's a great way to have less risk while you're learning. Fish threw in another 5. Thank you, Fish. I meant starting the shard count over so the player can challenge themselves if they want. Oh, okay. Well, I think something like that is something we could definitely do for hard mode, where we could put some kind of brutal... I think that was just the original setup, is make it brutal on the shard count so that every time they die, it resets. So it never saves their shard collecting. If you die, you have to recollect everything. That would definitely be challenging. And I think that's the way it used to be, and people were going crazy saying it was too hard and insane. So we kind of made it more friendly for the majority of gamers. But for hard mode, we have an excuse to just be complete a-holes to everybody with our settings. So I'm more than happy to make that too challenging if you like that. Kosen likes nuggets. Threw in, let's see, 11 kroners. Thank you for your donation. There's no message, just a donation, but thank you for your support. Let me see. Shark Fan, too, threw in another 10 pounds. I think you mentioned a while ago that there were some scrap traps in some of the levels in Chapter 4, which were re-added as part of Dark Deception Enhanced. Now that Chapter 4 is out, what traps were they? Oh man, that's so long ago. I'm trying to remember what was re-added that was scrapped initially. I'm trying to think, was it Mascot Mayhem? I think it was Torment Therapy. It could have been the Buzzsaw. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to have to take a pass on that just because I can't honestly... I have to go back and rewatch my old video to remind myself of like which trap was scrapped and brought back. It's just that was like a 2-year development process, so... You know, that's a lot to try to pull up in my memory. But I know at least one of the traps was scrapped and kind of brought back due to the extra time. Fernando Miller threw in 5. Thank you, Fernando, again. Going further on the modding question, how simple would the process to separate the models of characters who share them, i.e. Titan, Gold Watcher? Well, I mean, Unreal Engine has a setup process for the rig and animation that has to match in order for it to be easy to swap out. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand right now, is that process to make rigs and models friendly to Unreal Engine. So we're kind of discussing how maybe we could set up a template that would be easier for them to work with, but we're not exactly sure how to do that yet. So, that, like I said, that's something we're going to work through and try to set up, but it's going to take some time. Maybe we can even just provide some documentation that makes the current setup easier for people to understand. I think that's the problem right now, is only a couple people that really understand how to swap out models and do custom animation. We could possibly work with them to create some documentation that people can read and have more guidance. That could also help a lot. Aaron Sue threw another 8. Vince, if we had Piggy, or sorry. Sorry, I can't read the question right, but it says, Vince, is we had Piggy DLC for Monsters and Mortals? I don't know about that. I think you're asking, will we have it? But the Piggy DLC is signed. It is coming this year. It's going to come after House of Ashes. So it will be the 4th DLC that we release. Poppy Playtime and Yandere Simulator are the ones that are going to be coming out first over the next couple months. And then House of Ashes will be after that. I'm not sure how close behind it will be, but they're going to be pretty close together. And then Piggy is going to be the big one after that. Fleet Does Stuff threw in another £2. Do you still have the original Elementary Evil, out of curiosity? Actually, I was digging through some files the other day, and I think we might actually still have that original build. Now, whether it can compile and run, I'm not sure. I didn't actually try to open the project and run it. It's a Unity project. But it might still work. But you have to remember, that was done a long time ago on a much, much earlier version of Unity, and it's never been updated. So that alone, just updating it, would probably break everything. And it's already a super broken build, if you've seen the video of it. And even if we look through Unity's archives and dig out the legacy version of Unity that can run it, it might still break. Who knows? Judinator threw in another 5. Any update on Happy Humble Burger Farm DLC or They Grow? We don't have an agreement with Happy Humble Burger Farm for a DLC, so that's kind of a non-issue right now because there's nothing signed for that. It's still a possibility, but we don't have any agreement with them to license that. As for They Grow, yes, that is still in development. That's been something that has just taken a lot more time than we expected. Again, we are not developing They Grow. That is a published title. So the developer who's working on that, which is David, he just needed a lot of extra time to get it to a state that he's happy with. It's still a work in progress. We're not rushing him. We're letting him spend all the time he needs on it because we don't need to rush that game out. But when it will eventually finish, we think it will finish this year. So yeah, that is still coming. Sharkfan threw another £2. Are there any scrapped OSTs for Torment Therapy? There might be. I think there are a couple cut versions of the tracks, but they may be very similar. I don't know if they're different enough to be something that you guys would enjoy listening to, like the previous cut tracks. So that's it for our super chats. That was a long one. We're going to jump over to the community email questions. We've got about 10 or 12 of those. And that'll be it for this episode. So, number 1 we have from Mike S. When is the next Dark Deception update? Well, I can't give an exact date on that, just because none of my dates are ever right. But we do have a big update coming, like I've mentioned. It's going to have patches, it's going to be a patch with a bunch of bug fixes, general performance improvements, possibly an upgrade to Unreal Engine 5. I can't really commit to anything right now. We're just adding a lot of stuff. And when it gets to a point where we can release it, then we will push it out. It's also going to have the new trailer that we put up on YouTube. So that will be at the beginning when the game starts up, right before the title screen. On our side, we already have it running. It looks great. But it's not out to the public yet. Number 2, from Slawa. What is the release date for Yandere Simulator and Poppy Playtime DLC for Dark Deception Monsters Immortals? Again, I can't say release dates because I'm never right. And generally speaking, I would say in the next 2 to 3 months they're going to release. So, yeah, they're coming very soon. Number 3 from Wither Warrior. What is your development process for working on your projects, especially the current ones? Oh man, that's a very broad question. So the development process for working on our projects, I mean, generally the way I work and the way we work for our game projects is that we start off with a design phase. This is kind of like the idea phase where we concept everything out, write the scripts, kind of make all of our design mistakes and go through all the versions until we have a look and name and script for everything that we're happy with. This is where dialogue is written, concept art is made for every character, levels are concepted out, and then we will jump over to, once that's all finalized, we will go to the production phase. Now, even during the production phase, we can introduce revisions to the design as we go, as changes become necessary, either due to technical limitations or just new ideas, but they're usually kept to a minimum. And the production phase is where we do kind of an asset production phase where we start building everything. So before we can put the IKEA table together, we got to build all the parts. So building all the assets, doing all the mechanics and coding, and then kind of the wrap-up stage at the end, which is like kind of the alpha, beta, gold stage, where we kind of build everything and get it to a completion point, and that's right before release. The alpha stage tends to last the longest, the pre-alpha and alpha stage. So in general, that's kind of how our development process works. A lot of game studios have a similar but slightly different take on that. Each one devotes like different time to each of those phases depending on how they want to prioritize that. But in general, having worked in the game industry for over 12 years, that's how most of my teams kind of worked, whether I was at Zynga or at EA or some of the companies I worked with like Riot. It was always some variation of that. Let's see. Number 4 from Jeremy H. What kind of changes can we expect for the eventual hard mode in Dark Deception? Well, that's a great question. That's going to be our masochist mode, where it's just going to punish you relentlessly. So, what kind of changes? It's definitely going to be buffing every enemy. I mean, that's the easy kind of change, is just buffing their speed, improving their AI. We can do things like increasing the difficulty of collecting shards, removing power-ups like Stun Orb, making bonus shards harder to collect, making traps happen more frequently if they have a cycle, increasing the radius of attacks, stuff like that. Anything to make it just insanely difficult. Almost, not quite to an unfair degree, but like right at that line. That would be kind of our hell mode, max difficulty mode. Sergey, number 5. If the game doesn't have a happy ending, does that mean Doug will die? Or he will somehow be deceived by Malik or Bierce? Well, I can't tell the ending of Chapter 5. That definitely qualifies as a spoiler. But I think I can say that we have an ending for everything. I can't tell you which one is the true ending, but I think it addresses all the scenarios. We'll put it that way. Number 6 from Daring Piratator. On Super Horror Bros video explaining the monsters from chapters 1 to 3, I've read a comment that theorizes explaining the reason for these bosses, excluding Agatha and chapter 4, of course, and their appearances. The chef monkeys were killers who ate their victims, the Titan Watchers were political figures who abused their power for greed, Doom Ducky was a manipulative, pathological liar, and the Goliath clowns troll people at their most vulnerable. Were these respective bosses canonically once mortal souls who committed their respective sins on a greater level? I think at the bosses, I mean, those are some interesting takes. And I don't know if those are fan theories or taken from Super Horror Bros video. He has some great theory videos. But the bosses in general, just like all of the monsters, vary as to their significance and their meaning, as to what their sin is and how they were created. So, take that as you will. I'm not going to define those conclusively yet, because I like hearing fans kind of theorize about what it is. But yeah, you at the very least have accurately guessed that they are different from the normal monsters. There is a reason that they exist. And I would like to save stuff like that for our book series and for the museum. Those are all kind of cool things I can expand on later on, rather than kind of dropping something here on these live stream videos. So yeah, I definitely want to expand the lore as we go and give you kind of more of an insight into these characters. Like I think the model museum is a perfect place to put that in, because we're gonna have like Doom Ducky in there, and like the Titan Watchers from Monsters and Mortals, but like the Chef Monkey, I can give kind of more of a backstory on them and help you guys see a bit more about their nature and how they're created and what purpose they serve. So we'll hold off on that for now, but those are some interesting takes. Christoph, number 7. I noticed that you were following Acid Wizard Studio on Twitter, which are developers of Darkwood, and I wanted to ask, is this hinting at a future collaboration for Monsters and Mortals, or are you just following them because you were a fan of their game? No, actually I'm following them, well, one, because I am a fan of Darkwood. It's an awesome game. If you haven't played it yet, definitely go play it. But it is brutally difficult. Just be aware of that. It's not a easy, casual game. And also because we did a sale with them at one point on Steam. We did kind of like a bundle. So I was following them. It was work-related. But yeah, in general, I'm a fan of their game. They're a cool studio. I believe they're based in Poland. Number 8, Happy 6. Have you already come up with characters in a map? Oh, sorry, let me reread this. Have you already come up with characters in a map will be in Piggy DLC? Okay, I think what he's trying to say is, have you already come up with with characters and maps that will be in the Piggy DLC? So, no, not yet. We're not working on the Piggy DLC yet, but we have talked to Minitoon, and we've talked about like what maps he wants to see in the DLC, and he has some like good suggestions. They're basically, I think, some of the more popular maps from Book 2, and they all have a lot of potential to be really awesome. And of course, you know, we're rebuilding these rooms from scratch to be realistic, so it's going to be pretty awesome once we get to that. I'm actually really excited to kind of, well, one, I'm excited for every DLC that we do, but the next 4 are really cool, so they'll kind of offer something really different. They're not really what I would say similar at all. Like, one's an anime, like a brutal anime horror type game. The other one's kind of a bendy style horror game, Poppy Playtime, like kind of the Explore the Toy Factory animation studio type thing. And then we've got House of Ashes, which is about, well, I don't want to spoil that if anyone's played that game, but it's part of Dark Pictures Anthology. And then Piggy, which is, you know, it's just a crazy multiplayer game already that we're bringing in. Hey, that's kind of like, almost like if we crossed over with Dead by Daylight. This is kind of like a first attempt at something like that, because Piggy already is a multiplayer game that people play socially. So this is kind of our first attempt at that kind of crossover. Question number 9 from the Ghost. Do you plan to add the alphabet letters in Dark Deception as Easter eggs instead of bosses? No, we didn't have any plans to add in the alphabet letters. That's kind of like Monsters and Mortals exclusive. I would say if at any point we just wanted to add it into Dark Deception just so it's there, it would probably make the most sense as an Easter egg, like to see them around. But I know people wouldn't be happy with that. They would want them to come after them and chase them. But it would be cool to kind of see them hidden somewhere. But I think ultimately, I'm just going to leave that one as a Monsters and Mortals exclusive. There's going to be a lot of stuff in Monsters and Mortals by the time we're done that are just exclusive to that game. It's just a way for us to have fun in the Dark Deception universe, but we're not obligated to put it in Dark Deception. Number 10 from Kreenox. Will there be any updates and innovations in Monsters and Mortals besides DLC and characters in chapters 4 and 5? Well, one thing I've mentioned before is that we want to do original DLCs for Monsters and Mortals that are based in the Dark Deception universe. So basically Dark Deception levels that are not from Dark Deception itself. They're a way for us to expand the Dark Deception universe and kind of show other monsters and other realms that may not necessarily be under Malik's control. Question 11, final one. Hello, I am wondering if there's any way to get Silent Hill DLC for Monsters and Mortals. I was going to buy it, but I couldn't find it to purchase it anywhere. I guess I missed it. So I was wondering if it was just removed early. Well, like I talked about earlier, Silent Hill reached the end of its agreement terms, which was 1 year. And it's removed from the Steam store, but it's still coming to all the other platforms, so it's not gone from the game. And if you bought it on Steam, you can play it in Monsters and Mortals forever. So even if it's available on Steam or not, it's in the game forever. And you only need one person to own the DLC to be able to play it in a match. And it is available in World Play and in private matches. I think there was a lot of confusion about that for some reason. Some people were trying to convince everyone that it couldn't be played in World Play. And I was like, no, it can be played in everything. It changes nothing. You simply just can't go buy it anymore on Steam. Okay, that is the end of our community questions from email. I'm going to circle back to Super Chats one more time, but we're kind of at the 2-hour mark now, so I'm not going to I'm going to do 3 more. And then we're going to put a wrap on this. So we got, let me see where we got. Okay, Rooney Nico threw in £5 again. Thank you, Rooney Nico, again. Will you have a mode where if you get a game over, you go all the way back to the beginning of the game for Barely Buried to Monkey Business, etc.? That's actually an interesting concept. Like one life, and no matter where you are in the game, it sets you all the way back to the beginning. Like all the portals lock again. Basically, that's like a one life mode. So something like that would be like ultimate hell mode. I think there's only a very select group of people who are going to enjoy that. I could enjoy it, but I think most people are going to hate that. But yeah, that something like that would be pretty cool. I think that extra challenge makes sense. And I've seen a lot of games already have something like that, so I'm fine with that. Fish threw in another 5. If Doug collected 7 ring pieces before Malik took them, why did we only collect 6 and Barely Buried? Not a criticism, just curious. Love that level. Let me see. 7 ring pieces. I have to look back where we collected the ring pieces and Barely Buried. All the ring pieces and Barely Buried should be there. But remember that, let me see, 7 levels. I'd have to look back at the design where all the ring pieces are, but I'm pretty sure all the ring pieces are accounted for. I don't know if you missed one, like in your count, but they should all be accounted for. Let's see, there's 2 in the zone. Well, we'll get back to that one. I'm not going to try to like count through in my head right now. But I'm glad you enjoyed the level. That's one of my favorite also. Judinator threw in 5. Thank you, Judinator. Final question. Wasn't there another DLC that was not yet revealed in Monsters and Mortals? Yeah, there is one other DLC. And the reason it's not revealed yet is because we're still in negotiation for it. For AAA DLC, it can take 7 to 10 months to sign one of those DLCs. So it's a very long process. It takes up to a year. So that's why some of them I can announce, some of them I can't. But we always have kind of negotiations going on in the background, as we're always trying to bring in new DLC and have it kind of in the queue ready to go for when we finish all the ones that we're working on. But okay, it is now almost 4 a.m. my time. I gotta crash and we're past the 2 hours mark. So thank you guys all. This is going to be a wrap for this episode. I appreciate all of you sticking around and asking these awesome questions and being very generous with your support for the super chats. That's always amazing to see. I'll see you guys next time. It's going to be episode 20. Maybe we can do something special for that. Hopefully by that time we've got at least one of the DLC out. But who knows? Hopefully we have some cool stuff to talk about. I'll see you all next time. Have a great night. Have a great day wherever you are in the world. And be safe always. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time.